Hello, everybody. This is another Lamley Awards Showcase 2024 Lamley Awards Tomica Limited Vintage. We're getting towards the end of the Lamley Awards, and I actually, when I first started planning the Lamley Awards, I was not thinking about doing a Tomica Limited Vintage tournament, but then I started going through what came out this year and the significant changes that Tomica Limited Vintage had this year, and it was like, oh, we have to do it. I've done it in the past. Admittedly, haven't had as much Tomica Limited Vintage content this year, and then I realized, oh wait, they kind of killed it this year. So I have this Trader Joe's bag again, like I did with Mini GT, with a bunch of stuff in there. We're going to randomly pull out the boxes, showcase the models, and we're going to just start. In fact, I'll just pick out the first one, just randomly. And here we go. So here's what I want to mention. Significant for a lot of reasons. Tomica Limited Vintage, by the way, I'm going to put links down to Japan Booster, both their pre-order site and their eBay site, because all of these came from Japan Booster with the exception of one. They always send every mix they send for me to showcase, and then I find different ways to showcase these models, and I'm really excited to do this year end. In fact, they even gave me some input on what the best-selling models were, and we're able to factor that in as the committee considered choosing 16 models. I should probably mention that. 16 models in the tournament. It'll be obviously tournament style, 6, 8, 4, 2, and then a champion. Yeah, it was another pretty passionate discussion, and Japan Booster helped by saying, here were the top 10 sellers this year. We factored that in as well, just to see what was popular amongst the collectors. All right, that's enough. Tomica Limited Vintage changed their packaging. Well, they didn't really change their style of packaging, but they changed their look. The logo changed, the art changed. I mean, the model itself, the way they've done the art on the model didn't change, but this background, a little more color to the packaging, a little bit more bright. And then, you know, not only that, and I do think this is a response. This is my own opinion, but it does seem like with the growing popularity of brands like Mini GT, Tarmac Works Global 64, that Tomica Limited Vintage probably took notice and said, we probably need to add a little bit more pizzazz to our packaging and to our approach. Now, I agree on one end because I know what collectors want. I disagree in that the Tomica Limited Vintage really fills this neat niche with the road cars that they do. As long as they continue to do some road cars that maybe aren't as exciting to maybe the U.S. collector per se, I'm fine with this, because what you're going to see with Tomica Limited Vintage is that they've leaned a little bit more into your GTRs, into your, you know, there's going to be a lot of Nissan in this 16. I don't know. It's just going to be, it's not as much of like the Cedrics and the, you know, the older Toyotas and things like that we've seen. And considering this seems to be a direction shift for them doing these kind of cars, this is what we leaned into. So you're going to see a lot of Skylines, and I'm going to see some people, some of the old school TLV collectors, that are going to say, no, we want the boring road cars. I do too, but I understand what they're doing because they are catering to today's collector who wants some of this stuff. So you're going to see actually a real lean into R33s as well. Okay, that's a lot. Nissan Skyline GTR. This is actually R33 Police Deco. I've got the package. I already have the models out because it takes a little bit of time. So we'll go ahead and show it off, put it on the turntable. Here's your R33 police car, two-door police car. Whether or not this actual car exists, I have no idea. I'll put this on the mat so you can watch it just a second. These cars do have shocks. They are always done to factory spec. So if there's a change in the taillights, change in the headlights, they will change it themselves and change the number on the the model number. That is LVN322A. I'll just go ahead and put that one right there. All right, I've done a lot of explaining over the last few minutes, but I think it's worth it because for Tomica Limited Vintage fans, and plus for those of you who maybe are not too familiar with Tomica Limited Vintage, you kind of want to know what they do. Everything is to scale. Everything is perfectly detailed. If there's a slight change from one car to the next, they will make that change. It's not they just recolor a casting. All right, next one, randomly picked. All of these with the new packaging. Subaru Impreza Sportswagon WRX STI version V. This is in like some sort of silver, I've got it here. We'll put this down here. Roll that out. This is a car that I think casting itself was released in last year. I think we might have had it in the tournament, but it continued to be a very popular one. This is one that collectors were buying up, according to Japan Booster. We picked silver color with the gold rims. Obviously blue with gold rims, but that was released last year. But this one, you know, I can also show real up close. You can see that they do the brake discs and calipers in these wheels too. So not only do you get the shocks, but you get those details in the wheels as well, which is one of the things that makes these models expensive. It also makes them highly, highly collectible because they're so detailed. But yeah, so here it is in silver, gold rims, tons of detail in the interior. And this is very much Tomica Limited Vintage. Like, you're gonna see the the STIs, the WRX STIs, typically not in wagon form. Tomica Limited Vintage, of course, says, well, we'll do that. You might see those come out without the wagon form soon, but you know, that's how it goes. All right, next one that we picked, the JACCS Civic. Racing cars are something that they don't do a lot, but when they do them very, very well. And they'll do this kind of packaging. I'll put this here. Roll it out. Here it is. Again, same thing. You're going to start seeing a racing interior on these. Obviously, the single seat, roll cages, everything stripped out of the interior, and then of course the full wrap on this one. Oh, the sun just really came out. Now it's super bright, but that's okay. Mismatched wheels, I think, too. Maybe not. They look kind of, I mean, spokes look the same. Maybe they're the same. Maybe there's a wide, yeah, I don't know. I'll even show you the bottom of that. Look at the exhaust that they did. Again, that's a piece they will definitely do if needed. That one goes there. I reach in again. This was a new packaging. This is the Datsun truck. They also did a version of the Nissan truck. And you can see, I'll show you on the packaging, you can see this one has axles that rotate maybe the wrong word, adjust for an off-road kind of vibe here. I'll put this here, and where is she? There it is. I can show you, this is what they've done here. So this thing pivots to do either way. We've seen that with some Hot Wheels too, right? But you can get this little pivot look, and then of course you can try and balance them out, and then we'll put it on the turntable. Even outside of these axle links, you know, to me that's might be a little gimmicky for what I like, but as long as it can sit straight, and it pretty much does, and then you can adjust as needed, I think it's fine. But I always display them like they'd be in a showroom. That's how I'd like to display the cars. So, but this is cool. I mean, obviously it's a nice little aspect to these. That looks really cool. And the car itself, model itself, of course, with the in really cool interior. I really like the wheels on this one. It's just a fantastic model. One that definitely merited being in the tournament. All right. You have to see if you can't figure out all of these. All right, here's one, just pulling it out. You're going to see a couple of R32s, and look, Skylines are going to be hot in this video, because that's just how it goes. And I always wonder when people say, oh, you know, can they just show some creativity and do something else? Not until the collectors stop buying Skylines. I mean, I see it in the Lamley Awards too. I put in there's the same old culprits, you know, the Porsches and the Skylines. You put them up, collectors vote for them, collectors buy them, so they vote for them with their dollars. Anyone who's complaining about too many Skylines in the 164 world, I don't know what to tell you, because we buy them up, and we buy them up a lot. So anyway, all right, this is the Nissan Skyline GTR R32. You're going to see a racing version of this casting. This was a cool one. This is the Group A plain color version. Diecast Expo. This was released exclusively in Malaysia at the Malaysian Diecast Expo. I got this one from my friend at Ministry of Diecast. He was able to get his hands on one. I asked him, and he was like, yeah, I think I can get one. So he did. I'll show you the model. This is fantastic. So we've seen the Calsonic. We've seen this casting in a Calsonic livery, a bunch of other legendary racing, but they did this plain white version for the Malaysia Diecast Expo. It does have an opening hood. Not all of the Tomica Limited Vintages do, but this one does. Really detailed engine. And then, yeah, you get those racing wheels, you know, era or period correct racing wheels that look really nice on this one. You know, I think the specs on this one really suggest a racing car, but this one they kind of do in this kind of custom style, I think, as a show exclusive. So you'll see these in like these kind of special releases. You'll see something unique like this, and I thought this plain white version was just so cool that I had to include it. By the way, blue axles on one side, red axles on the other. How rad is that? All right, keeping on going. Talk about iconic. Toyota Corolla 11 two-door GT Apex in Panda Deco. Put that here, roll this car out. Here it is. Obviously, the what we're used to in an A86 in the Panda Deco, this is not it, right? But this was, I believe, a factory color by Toyota, replicated by Tomica Limited Vintage in perfect scale with all the exact details, including the rims. The wheels are exactly how they were when this car was released. I have no idea what year this Toyota would be. I'm looking at the packaging to see. It doesn't really say. If it does, I can't read it. But this one, again, in Panda Deco or in Panda Paint, I don't know. It's just another one that just merits being in the tournament. All right, we continue on. All right, this is definitely the largest model we are doing in this tournament. And I considered, because I have something planned for trucks, but this one I thought needed to go in because it was very, very popular this year as well. This is the Isuzu Elf Safety Loader Big Wide. We've seen it done, I think, in white, but Tomica Limited Vintage went ahead and did an Advan version of this truck. Check this thing out. So this one has all of the adjustable parts so that in fact, we'll put a couple cars on this, but we'll put on the turntable so you can see it now in its stock form. Rubber spare tire on the bottom, proper axles on the front and the back, full detail in the cab, full detail in the trailer portion of this one. Obviously it can hold at least 2 cars, 2 vehicles, and this one can. We'll take 2 parking spots there. This one can carry those together. All right, let's continue on. Yeah, an Advan hauler like that had to be included. All right, another Nissan. Nissan Silvia QS Type S. Another casting that we've seen several versions of. Q's Type S, 1994. Q's Type S, right? Loved the color of this one. This one got in because of the color. The casting's been very popular. I really liked the unique, another period correct color for this car from obviously when it came out in the early to mid 90s. This was a color you would see, and so really dig this one, and just thought it really, there's others you could go with blacks and whites and things like that, but I think that this teal color is so appropriate for this car. And it's always talked about how you can find very few clean versions of this car anymore that haven't been totally modified for drifting or whatever, and so this one in its stock with stock colors is pretty cool. All right, let's put that one. I mentioned R33s. Here's the other one. So same car as the police car, but this one is another one that it was so popular. This is another Skyline GTR V-Spec in purple. Maybe hard to tell in the glare, but you can see it in the studio on the turntable how nice this is. Again, a modified R33 might sit a little lower these days, but to me, seeing this car in factory colors, in factory stance, with factory wheels, including the disc brakes and calipers, it's just like, this is awesome. Just an awesome car that just really plays nicely into that era that it actually came out. We have certain visions of this car now. I like these factory versions for sure. We'll put that one right there. Ah, yes. All you can see is the Renesas multi-side port Mazda RX-8, a welcome edition 2011 RX-8 Type RS. There is some art on this one. I'll just put it over here. Let's show you the model. I think this one does have an opening hood. There's the engine. And here is the RX-8 car that does, you know, it's gotten some love lately, right? Hot Wheels and Matchbox have both done them. Now Tomica Limited Vintage does the Hold My Beer and does their factory version of the RX-8, the clear tail lights, which is so part of that era. Wheels look fantastic. Paint color, so great on this one. They've done the RX-7. There's been several versions of that. I think there's some that come out right at the end of the year here that we don't have yet. Therefore, they wouldn't be included in here. But the Mazda RX-8 was a new model this year and another welcome addition. It's one of those, like, when Tomica Limited Vintage, you know, puts out their, you know, they'll always announce these models about 6 to 7 months in advance. And when they do that, there's always that kind of, wait, they did what? And there's one in here that was the big they did what moment. But and we'll get to that in a second. But you know, they say we're doing an RX-8, you get excited. They say we're doing an R33 GTR, there's kind of a finally, even though everybody else has done it, at least they're going to be doing it in the factory. There's just not going to be any modifications on it. That's how you want it. All right. You can't have a Tomica Limited Vintage without a GTR. They have leaned heavily into the GTR, the R35 GTR. Premium Edition T-Spec 2024 model. There was a Nismo model. We went with this one, Nissan GTR 2024. Obviously, the GTR is on its last leg, right? They're going to retire it, I believe. And this one, you know, but they have the new body style. And I think Tomica Limited Vintage has done every body style so far of the Nissan GTR, including this one. I really love the color combination here. Millennium Jade with gold rims is such a great color. Obviously, Millennium Jade is a rich, historic color in the Nissan GTR range. And so to see this one with the gold rims in Millennium Jade color just was kind of a no-brainer. Obviously, you can see from the front grille and everything that this is the final style, right? Final generation of the GTR as far as we know. So thought that one was a really, really cool addition and an easy selection into this best of 16 tournament. All right, I mentioned there's the white version. How about Axia? Axia Racing Trampio, I don't know if I'm saying that right, racing version. That's just the package, so we'll get to the model. In fact, since we already have this, let's go ahead and relieve the Civic of its duties. And we will add the white car's companion, the Axia racing car. This thing's wild. Paint on this one is crazy. I'll have to look this one up. Look at the wheels, this kind of gold lace wheels. Blue axles and red axles as usual. I don't know what to make of this deco other than it's fantastic. I just love the styling here. The wheels are kind of wild. This was just a cool racing car that they did. And obviously it's based on one that you'll have to have my history lesson on this car because it's really cool with these wheels and all these details. And of course, when you look at the engine bay, it's painted inside that kind of baby blue color, which is great. Love the details on this one. Another one that you're like, it's another R32 Skyline, but then you go, but how do we not put that in? It's popular, people want it, and just released latter part of the year there. That's a pretty good duo right there. Anyway, it had to go in. All right, continuing on. All right, here is classic Tomica Limited Vintage. It does say Neo, so it's a part of that generation, but this is the Nissan Skyline 2000 GT police car. This is a Jan Mary police car as far as I can tell. Jan Mary is the four-door version of the Ken Mary Skyline, and there was one released last year, but they put this police version out this year. Go ahead and roll this one in. This era of car is, well, I mean, I was going to say, these are probably the ones I like the best from Tomica Limited Vintage, and then I think about it, it's like, I can't figure out a preference because these are just so cool. I love the surf line on this car. I've always said it with the Jan Mary. It has such a beautiful, and the Ken Mary for that matter, such a beautiful surf line. It's what runs from the front axles to the rear, front wheels to the rear, splits on the second door there, right, and then runs up above the back wheels. I just love that. Love that style cue. And this is a great model in its police car livery. I just thought this was so rad. in the classic. I really like Tomica Limited Vintage police cars, all done in Japanese police livery. And I think that's the only one we have in there, so that's just one that I just really, really dig. All right, let's keep on going. Skyline, 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 Skyline. Another one. At first glance, it looks familiar, right? Something you've seen in diecast a lot. Nissan Skyline GTS-T Type M. This is the 4-door R32. 4-door. Again, that's so Tomica Limited Vintage. Let's roll that one in, let you have a look at it. Wheels, so in the era, jet black, but 4 doors. You just don't see very many R32s rolling around with 4 doors, at least here in the U.S., but you probably did in Japan. So again, that's the take. You know, TLV has done R34 4 doors. And they've obviously they've done R33 4 doors, and now they've done R32 4 doors. I really like this black one. Thought it kind of fit perfectly. We'll put it in the parking spot over there. I thought that was a great one. So yeah, 2 more that I'm going to say that these 2 are my models of the year for Tomica Limited Vintage. I liked so many of these cars. Really like the police car. Oh yeah, there's the police car. I did 2 police cars, R33 and of course the Jan Mary. I have liked so many of these. I'll park this right here. But there were 2 that really, really stood out for me, and I know stood out for a lot of people as well. And they come from both. They come from your just like purest cool car side, and they come also from your just unique, what's Tomica Limited Vintage going to do next. So, first one, and I bet you can guess because these were very, very popular models, had big time sales as well. First one, I could have picked any color. There were 4 Nismo 400Rs released this year from Tomica Limited Vintage. There was silver, yellow, red, and this, they're calling it blue. I guess it's a navy blue. Almost looks purple. But I went ahead and picked this one. I could have picked any color, really, of the 400R. But I really like the white rims on this one. 400R is a legendary car. It's now, if one ever went up for sale, it would cost $1 gajillion. Just an amazing car, and kind of it's become a legend as far as Skylines go. One that I'm surprised Hot Wheels hasn't done, but I would imagine that day will come, that they'll do the 400R. If you're not familiar, you can look it up. There's really cool details on the white spokes here on the wheels, which looks really good. Yeah, I guess in the sun it's very much a blue color, but it does kind of look purple outside of the sun, but who cares? They're saying it's blue, I'll believe them. I could have picked yellow, like I said. I could have picked silver or red. Any of them would have fit. We'll just let this one represent it. You can, if you want to vote for the 400R in general, if you like the yellow better, just vote for this one because it's representing the family, so to speak, because there are just so many. This one, 2 released earlier in the year, and then 2 released just recently. And yeah, it just sits in. That was the, I mentioned the, wait, Tomica Limited Vintage is doing what moments? That was definitely one of them, was the 400R. Love that one. And then lastly, have you figured out which one it is? You had to have, right? This has garnered a lot of attention. The first American vehicle that Tomica Limited Vintage has done. They've done American specs of Japanese cars, Mazdas and Toyotas like Lexus, things like that. But they haven't done a full-bred American car until they did the Chevrolet Astro LT all-wheel drive. This was not a random choice, as I think some of you have learned, and I've learned. The Astrovan, like the Dajiban, the Dodge van, has taken on kind of a life of its own amongst Japanese auto enthusiasts, and getting a van over there, stock and everything else, has been kind of the thing to do. I don't know if they drift them like they do the Dodge vans, the Dajibans, but they are quite popular, and so this was a strategic choice by Tomica Limited Vintage. I'll show you the model. There were 2 released this year. This one in the 2-tone blue with the gold rims, kind of the mag rims, was definitely the standout of the 2. You could maybe go more with the more boring one to kind of fit the vibe, but this one in these colors with these wheels. this is not only my Tomica Limited Vintage model of the year, along with the 400R, and I could argue each one of them to be number one, so we'll just call them a tie for first. But this is a candidate for my overall model of the year. I'm not going to say it's going to win, but it's up there. It will definitely be in my top 10. I just thought this choice, not only because it's his first American car, and they didn't do a Camaro or a Mustang or something, but they did a kind of long forgotten van, but not forgotten in Japan. I think that thing is so cool. There you go. All right, tonight I'm going to plug these into my little randomizer app, all 16 of these models, and it's going to spit out the pairings. So we could see the R32s go against each other, the R33s go against each other right in the first round. Nonetheless, whatever the randomizer spews out is what I'm going to go with, and you have 24 hours to vote in round 1. And then round 2, obviously, we'll get down to 6, 8, then 4, then 2, and then we will crown a champion. We will see which model it is. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Japan Booster. Bye.